It's finally October, and all around the world artists sharpen their pencils, grab their ink brush pens or paint or pencils or digital medium of choice and start some kind of art challenge. There are many names, be it Inktober, Drawtober or any of the themed art prompt lists to follow. What started once upon a time as Inktober really has evolved, and each artist makes it their own. Welcome back to my art channel. I'm Evelyn and I just started my October art challenge and thought it might be nice to just do a cozy art vlog where we can all kind of sketch and draw together and talk about how to approach something like this. I asked myself, what would I want to do if I spend a couple hours a day drawing just for myself? I didn't feel the urge to practice inking or to get the creative juices flowing with a fun prompt list, but there's still this community aspect that can be very motivating to focus on finishing a drawing a day. And I wanted to use that precious time for a project I'd been chipping away at for quite a long time. Funnily enough, while I don't consider this Inktober, I did end up using ink, a traditional inkstone, for some of the drawings in this series. On day 1, I'm drawing Jonathan Harker, one of the protagonists in Bram Stoker's Dracula, as he excitedly embarks on a journey. And isn't that fitting for the beginning of the month? I started with a simple pencil sketch and then quickly transitioned to color and ink. Since it's the first day, I was curious to see how long this drawing process would take, especially including filming, which can mean a lot of time spent adjusting camera angles, settings, and replacing batteries. Starting early in the morning was key for me as the sunrise hits the window next to my desk and gives me the perfect lighting. Using ink, even watered down as it is here, is quite a different feeling from black watercolor. It doesn't reactivate as much and I can quickly build up semi-transparent layers and textures, but just as easily go very dark. Depending on how long I prepare the ink, it will be more or less intense, and I plan to play around with that during this month. If you've seen some of my previous art vlogs, you might have noticed how I have quite a struggle with art style, especially when drawing quick character illustrations. When I'm painting, it's less of an issue as I have time to just naturally end where I want to, but for a challenge like this, I was quite worried. So I kept it very simple, going back to some of my comic and manga drawing roots to get the expression I want at the early stage and then detailing slowly for a bit softer shading. A reason I love reading Dracula as part of the Dracula Daily newsletter each year is the shifting tone of the book. There are some genuinely funny moments, and while there's a sense of foreboding since we all know where the story is headed, the beginning is actually quite lighthearted and I wanted to capture Jonathan's optimism here. As the story goes on and the tone gets darker, the illustration style will shift. This is a digital version of this scene that I sketched earlier this year. Once I decided that I'd like to turn this series into a printed art book, that meant some readjusting. I'd much rather have all the illustrations with at least a hint of color, and I think if I go back and forth between digital and traditional on top of my art style insecurities, the art scene might give stylistic whiplash. I also just love painting traditionally so much more. I'm adding color using gouache paint. I could have used watercolors too, but I wanted the options of opaque paint, especially an intense red like flame red that I use here, and white to be more flexible. Since I want to finish one illustration per day, a forgiving medium like gouache paints is easier to work with since I can paint over mistakes. I'm using a Zorn palette, so red, yellow ochre, white and black. The black of the ink itself is not really part of that mix. The black used in a Zorn limited palette is usually ivory black because that particular shade has a cool undertone compared to shades like carbon black or ink here with that more earthy undertone. Having a cool black helps round out this limited palette and makes it very versatile. If you enjoy limited palettes and want to learn more, I'll talk about it more later in the video. My art series all about Dracula focuses on windows, often framing scenes with train or coach windows, mirrors, castle windows or door frames, so I'm filling in the entire blank background here. After scanning, I'll mask out the edges to get a cleaner white border to surround the window and Jonathan, with only his pen and a drop of ink poking out. Let me know if you'd like to know more about how I scan, edit and adjust traditional paintings digitally. And I could add that to a future Drawtober video as a kind of art book making of. I already had a clear picture in mind for both the character Jonathan and the look of this scene, so that made it a great illustration to start the month with, getting a feel for the material, the size I'm painting at, and the brush I mostly used for it. A soft Escoda Versatile in size 2/0. I've had these Escoda brushes for a long time, and what I love about this small Versatile in particular is that, despite being tiny and perfect for lines and details, it actually still has enough brush hairs to hold a proper amount of water, or in this case, ink. This little drawing went by so fast. I loved adding playful details to hint at the book's first chapter, like Jonathan's constant mentions of his fiancée Mina. So when I finished earlier than planned, I had some ink and time left to work on another illustration for my art scene. Let's travel back in time a bit. Before October started, I'd already prepared an overall layout for the scene, as well as finished several of the color and graphite illustrations for it. And first things first, that's in no way the right way for an art challenge like this. You don't have to prepare, you don't have to be ready. Some artists find it freeing to just pick a prompt list and jump right in. I've done that myself in the past when I was looking for inspiration or anything to get me to actually draw. So I thought I'd share some that look interesting, and especially some that are low maintenance for busy people who'd like to still participate. Drawtober is the big one that I'd love to recommend. It's a spooky yet cozy prompt list, and each prompt is spread out over 5 days. So if this video goes up in time, you could still jump in for the first prompt, Vampire. You can probably guess why I like this prompt list, but also there's so much adorable spooky art that gets shared on Drawtober that I hope you check out. Lordtober by Colette Martin, she of the amazing Trailcam unicorn paintings. A bit tongue-in-cheek, I think this prompt list is perfect if you're feeling uninspired and would like your prompts to be a bit more evocative and unique. Spellstober by Small Town Spells makes me think of D&D campaigns and old-school fantasy books. And I think the prompts would suit some really simple drawings or soft vintage-style watercolor art. If that fantasy setting isn't quite for you, but you still like something magical, Lindentober might be a great fit. And over on Kara, the site that for me has replaced ArtStation, there's Planttober, if you're in the mood for a straightforward, floral and herbal theme. I hope you like these and there's something here that resonates with you. Really, no matter what, there's no wrong way to approach this month. You could do a single illustration that you chip away on each day. Small sketches of random things in any material. And if we miss a day or two, that's really not the end of the world. I'd rather be kind to myself and end the month happy than force myself to do exactly one drawing a day no matter what. Life happens and maybe a day off can be used to sketch and prepare art for the week ahead, or we might just need a little break. Meanwhile, I'm doing my own thing here with this illustration that I started before the month even began, as a way to find character designs for each of the main characters in Dracula. I'd mentioned that, for example, Jonathan was already fixed in my mind, but there's a lot of characters here that still needed a distinct, simple look. Something that would work for both the more realistic drawings and the very simple, cartoonish ones. I'm more of a planner in general, but also, since I'm using this art challenge as a motivator to finish a personal project, this more planned approach fits my goals here. I want to be sure that all the illustrations have a place in the art scene, that it flows well, that there's a balance between cute and elaborate illustrations, but then each day I still get to just dive in, pick what I want to draw and wing it from there. This spontaneous approach hopefully also helps with the time issues. A challenge like this is a bit of a commitment no matter what, so I'm glad I have illustrations on my list that are very simple and quick, and some that are more elaborate and detailed and probably need to be done on a weekend day. On the note of quick and simple, since I'll be away one weekend of the month, I added a couple vignette illustrations to my list, like cute little bat drawings or Dracula in a straw hat. Yes, that's actually part of the book. For those, I won't need color or my fancy watercolor paper, but can use these ink brush pens while I'm traveling. I'm sometimes scared to take brush pens with me, as once upon a time I had one leak all over my things, but these all have been faithful tools so far. So this larger illustration isn't really part of this whole Drawtober, Inktober system of finishing an illustration a day. Some of the art in this scene couldn't realistically be done in a day, and I'm not about to try the impossible. But it's perfect to work on this after I finish the sketch of the day, using up leftover paint and ink before cleaning my brushes. And maybe towards the end I can finish this one up in a longer session. Towards the end of the month I'll have to start preparing the scans for printing, so that's when I'll shift gears and sketch small studies in ink and gouache instead. I have this traditional Korean calligraphy paper that I want to use for that. But before the month started, this was another round of prep and testing, as I was curious to see how the paper interacts with ink and paint. It's not as quickly absorbent as watercolor paper, with the liquid just slowly sinking in and feathering in all directions, which creates fun patterns to then paint over with the more opaque gouache paint. I sketched this quick portrait as part of my 100 Heads challenge, which will be sorely neglected this month, and try to push the Zorn palette towards a very neutral grey tone. The Zorn palette with its very limited colors was actually what got me into painting in the first place. I had worked as an illustrator for a long time, but much more focused on line drawings or very cute little watercolor illustrations, so when I first got into trying more realistic approaches, I used the Zorn palette to do portrait studies and slowly built my palette from there. It's kind of the same here, as the limited palette helps me focus on this new paper that I'm painting on for the first time, as well as combining it with ink for a quite different feel from just the traditional Zorn palette, and overall I hope that having this palette to tie together all my small illustrations will make the art scene look more harmonious and flow together well. One thing about YouTube and filming painting process videos, there's a high chance of these getting quite repetitive. It's why I added in some of my preparation from before October to switch it up with some different footage while also showing my realistic approach and the prep that went into this. But for the day-by-day drawing challenge, there will be lots of inkstone grinding, lots of tiny portraits and slow painting. There's not much I can do about that, and the most that changes is the time of day. Already on day 2, I didn't have the time to draw these until just after, I think, 10 PM, so at least I got some cozy night painting footage out of that. Let me know if you have something that you're curious about, maybe something to chat about for these videos. Or if you're okay with me just rambling about the drawing process itself like I'm doing right now. Maybe we could even do a Q&A for the end of October. Day 3 is my day off. As a freelancer, I like to have one day off during the week to run errands, so that's what I did, including some hiking now that there's no typhoon weather getting in the way. I took that same Hanji traditional paper with me, but it was so windy that I left the gouache paints in my bag and only used one of these Neocolor crayons to do a quick sketch of the hilly horizon to see how well these interact with the paper and water. There's a review for all the materials I bought in Switzerland during the summer that I'm still editing. There's so much sketching footage from that trip that I have been putting it off, but after Inktober is probably the perfect time to be nostalgic and show travel sketches and colorful art. Later that day, I created a third sketch in this series, this time of Mina as she peacefully reads letters. You can see how the overall mood is still happy, though as the story and drawings continue, these little drawings will go from cute characters to darker, moodier pieces. The book gets progressively darker as the characters find out they are not in a Victorian-era romance or slice-of-life story, but a horror story with vampires, so I want to capture that in the art itself. I'm also curious to see how my art style or process might evolve over the next nearly 30 days, and hope there's some new things that I learn as I do these. I'm especially excited for 3 illustrations that I've named the tarot cards of the series, in which I'll go for a tarot card inspired layout for some character portraits and a darker, more realistic painting style. I'm also currently editing the footage of the painting process for that large vampire illustration I painted in acrylics, which is also part of the art book, and it's gonna be up on my channel soon. In any case, with the first 3 days complete and much prep that went into it overall, I'll wrap it up here. I take a while to edit these videos, so I better get started or October will be over before this is up. I'd love to know what you're doing this month, no matter if it's following a daily prompt list, picking and choosing something just for the days when you have time, or if you're doing studies or a personal project, or taking a break, which honestly is a valid choice. There can be a sense of peer pressure that comes with these big art challenges, especially with social media and a fear of missing out. And I think it's important we go into them because we want to, because we are passionate about a project or excited for daily sketching, not because we feel that we have to. Take care, and I hope to see you in future art videos.